Hey, I'm Tony K. Welcome to Transformation School. I'm going to tell you something. Being a foster parent is very hard. Say hi, kids.
Hi, kids.
We've got a problem with this Masterpiece Takara Tomy Soundwave. The section that slides up and down here in front of his stomach to cover up his laser gun handle slid all the way up inside of his body and came off the tracks. So we need to disassemble his entire upper body, put that piece back on the track, and then see if we can get it to stay in place, slide up and down of course, without popping out. So let's start our project. And now everything is finally coming free. Not as cleanly as I had hoped, but that's what happens when you disassemble your toys. I can remember being 4 or 5 years old and disassembling my very first Shockwave figure, the original G1 Shockwave. I took all the screws out of him, could not put him back together. Ended up throwing the parts away. Might have kept a couple in my toy bin, but most of them went in the junk because I wanted to see how he looked inside. I wanted to see how all of the wires worked. Okay, so stressing about how this thing fits together is very important. This arm goes over here. You see these parts came out. That didn't want that to happen. So I think it goes in there. This goes in here the same way. No, that's not right. Alright, let's pull that back out. I think maybe this goes, spring goes in. And then this piece, this ratcheting shoulder goes in. And then the arm goes in. Yeah, that's the way it works. And then the back goes on over that. So we can take these out for now that we understand how they align, so we can work on the main problem. Got this half of Shockwave. No problems to report here. Here's the button that... Oh, we took the batteries out. I was going to say this is the button that the trigger activates to make his big laser gun work. Oh, these pieces kind of fill in under his arms, I think. We'll have to take a closer look at that when we reassemble. See some of the wiring in here. That's pretty interesting. Too bad his eye doesn't light up. There is a third-party head coming out that does have a light-up eye. So let's look at this. Here's the switch. This is where the switch comes through to press this button. Here is the stomach piece. I just looked at this off camera to figure out how this piece fits in. And this big wide edge is the top. Little tab is at the bottom. There's a track on each side that this will slide on. And now it's in. You can see it there. And when it slides up, it is supposed to be stopped by this little tab and this little tab. See, it slides up and stops there. However, this thing can very easily pop out over these two little tabs, which is exactly what happened in the first place. And then it comes out and gets stuck in the chest. So I've got to start brainstorming a mod to try to fix that. And so I did some brainstorming and some work off camera, and this is what I came up with. popsicle stick. Now, one other concern I have about this piece is it's got quite a bit of friction, which seems good. Like it's going to hold it in place so this doesn't slide out and go flopping around inside the body. However, I worry that this plastic is maybe just a little thin for that much pressure and that it will cause stress marks, especially over time. Like there's a teeny tiny white dot right there. So that is very possibly a stress mark from pushing this popsicle stick in. And we have compromised our integrity. It is bowing, not the airliner either. It is a bow in the wood. So we might try to cut one more of these and see how it compares. Ah, that was no good. So let's cut another one. Okay, it's in, it's not bowing. It's serving its intended purpose of holding the piece down. Next, we add the other half of the upper body and we see if we can put the head in for transformation. Now the head has its own problems, alright? Trying to pull this up without a popsicle stick in there can be problematic. With a popsicle stick in there, I just might not know if the problem is the stick or the original design. In this case, it's the stick. Let's trim off a little of this corner on the stick. I shall brainstorm off camera. Okay, I had a couple of ideas during my brainstorming session. Some were good, some were not. Using this orange foam to fill the cavity to try to pull out a reverse mold so that I could take some measurements was not a good idea. Ended up with a bunch of orange foam goop kind of stuck inside here. But once I put this thing back together, I can forget all about that little bit of orange goop in there. So laugh about it now, forget about it later. Next, I cut another piece of popsicle stick to the hopefully the appropriate length. And now rather than going in deep, I'm going to try to go in flat. And then we'll just sort of trim as we go, I suppose. This is do or die time, I think. If this doesn't work, I might call it quits on this particular project. I mean, even if this does work, I still need to consider how to keep this piece from falling out later. Yep, this is not deep enough. There it goes. We're done. Oh, and look at this. Notice this problem earlier. I don't know if it's a problem or not, but these two bits of plastic there are super worn. I don't know if those are sprue marks or something broke. Look here, here's even a little chunk of plastic. Okay, just tuck the kids in for bed, and now I don't ever want to have to disassemble this guy again. However, if this piece were to ever come up and come loose in the chest again, I would have to disassemble this. So, popsicle stick was not working. I have another idea. Paperclip. I got a metal one, got a plastic coated one, and I just want to clip a short piece of paper clip and super glue it to the two tabs so that when this comes up, the clearance on this is barely coming past those two tabs that are meant to hold it in. So if the paper clip is glued to those two tabs, then hopefully this piece will never slip past them again. And I think that the super glue will adhere better to this plastic coated paper clip than it will to the metal coated one. Because if I understand super glue correctly, it's creating like a chemical bond. It's essentially melting the two parts together. I don't know, you can super glue metal and it's not really melting metal, but I think it chemically melts plastic, and that's what causes it to glue plastic together so well. So I'm going to clip these two pieces. And just clip a nice long piece here. I'm going to try and just clipping the round end off, I guess. And I'm going to use this longest side, I think. Tremors may pose some challenges to this next task. Now we need to glue this on. Right there. I don't want to glue it to this thing, but that would like hold it in place pretty well. I'll use another paper clip to try to apply that super glue. So really, the ideal situation here would be a newly molded silver piece. Okay, I got glue on there. I want to slide this up so that I can just put this, wire in place, this paper clip. But I don't want the purple piece to glue to the silver. Okay, so I press that into place. I'm going to slide the, oh shoot, see the purple piece is already glued to it. Let go, purple piece, let go. Holy smokes, that purple piece glued on fast. That was ridiculous. I was about to use another R word that I don't like to use in a hateful way. Oh, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Purple piece was like, oh, I'm all gluing all over that thing. I'm getting stuck right to it, and now the white piece is like, I don't want to stick at all. Okay, now what? Is there glue on my tweezers? Because my paper clip was now sticking to my tweezers. This is getting very hard to deal with right now. The therapist has been trying to help us deal with our anger, and okay, it's on. Can I try to cinch it in a little bit? Okay. It is on like Donkey Kong. Okay. So it's on. The glue is curing. So we are going to shut down for an hour or two and then come back and evaluate this mess. This pink foam gooey mess. Okay, about 3 hours have passed. It's midnight. I'm ready to call it bedtime. So let's try this piece. Okay, so paper clip is glued in, and maybe that's gonna work, maybe not. I guess if this piece ever pops out of position again, then I can try to remember that I put a paper clip in, and it didn't work. But if this piece never pops out again, I might forget in a few months that I had to do this fix. Now let's reassemble and conclude today's lesson. Well, there we go. That was work. Didn't want to put into this figure, but I did. I'm pleased with it for now. Time will tell. That is all for today's lesson, everybody. Class dismissed.